Millsy, it was 2 years ago, I reckon, when we were talking about, and I was talking about personal experience and watching all the teenagers, and they're all sucking on these vapes, and they're getting them for $5 out of places like Indonesia, and they're bringing them back into our country. Well, it's developed into a much bigger story than those little moments that I revealed, that I'd seen the practice unfolding and getting bigger.
Well, they banned over-the-counter sales, and they said if you want to be on them, you're addicted, you'll have to go to the doctor, get a prescription. But WA will seek to override federal laws that will weaken the state's tough anti-vaping stance by banning over-the-counter e-cigarette sales at pharmacies. Dr. Michael Page is the Australian Medical Association WA president, and no doubt you and him will have a great discussion. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Mike.
Morning, guys.
Yeah, what do you think will happen if WA does override the federal laws and weaken the anti-vaping stance?
Oh, look, this is actually this is a positive move. The federal government's recently introduced vaping legislation had a little last-minute hole punched in it by the Greens, which would enable people to buy vapes over the counter from pharmacies without a doctor's prescription, and that comes into effect October 1, such that pharmacies would be able to sell vapes without a prescription nationwide. And the Pharmacy Guild was sort of up in arms about that, because I think of what it would do to their reputation, to the reputation of its members, pharmacists, pharmacy owners, who would, some of whom would become like tobacconists, those who embraced it and started flogging vapes over the counter, would bring their whole profession into disrepute, actually. So they were quite angry about it, and they've been lobbying for state-based changes to override that federal legislation, and that's what the state government has announced this week. It's announced that it will introduce legislation at the state level that will override the federal legislation to ban vapes without a prescription altogether. In other words, you wouldn't be able to walk into a pharmacy and just buy vapes over the counter. So that's a good thing. Vapes are dangerous. They're highly addictive. They contain very high concentrations of nicotine. And as you've said in your introduction there, the teenagers embrace vaping, and when you go to some countries overseas, go to the United Kingdom or anywhere else where vapes are freely available, and you see people vaping on every street corner, and it's a horrifying sight because it is dangerous.
Michael, there's not one pharmacist that I know, and I do know a few and have a few friends working in that world. There's not one of them that I've spoken to that want to sell a vape. Is it compulsory? Do they have a choice?
They would have had a choice, yes. So any pharmacy owner would have had a choice under the federal legislation to not sell vapes. But what this state-based legislation, should it be introduced and passed as has been announced, would be to take that choice out of the pharmacist's hands and say, well, actually, no, you're not allowed to sell the vapes at all without a prescription.
All right, well, it'll be interesting to see what people's reactions are to this and why they're making it so difficult for people that are trying to get themselves off the cigarettes. But you're saying they're jumping in from one evil to another. We'd be keen to hear from people.
The trouble is that there's not enough evidence just yet that vaping does help people quit smoking. And, in fact, what it might do for teenagers in particular is serve as a gateway towards smoking.
Right. All right, Michael, you've made your point well. We appreciate your time. Have a good day.
Anytime.
Good on you, Dr. Michael Page there, Australian Medical Association